Ooh-wee, boy, this is not going to be a nice conversation. So if you're sensitive, just go ahead and turn that off right now. Let's get it.
Don't forget now, it's a banger.
Yo, what's popping in the streets, everybody? I believe, therefore I am King Siler. Hope you guys are doing all right today. Before we go ahead and get started, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram as well, King_Siler, SYLAR. It's right there in the title. Obviously, you can see on the page. Leave me a comment, give me your opinion as far as like what you think about the video, and let's go ahead and get started. And like I said, today is this particular topic I know is going to trigger quite a few people, but I simply just ask that you listen with an open mind and an open heart. So, as you can see in the title here, teaching the culture. Now, let's just off rip, because we let's just go for the jugular with this one. I think when it comes to teaching the culture, I personally think that there's nothing wrong with anybody from any walk of life, you know, wherever the hell you is that you come from. I don't think that there's any problem with anybody teaching the culture of dance. Now, obviously, I'm talking about street dance. I am not talking about ballroom. I'm not talking about Latin. Okay, I know some of that is still technically ballroom, stuff like that, and some other but I'm specifically talking about freestyle and club culture. So, as I've stated, I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody, white, black, Latino, Asian, whatever walk of life that you come from. I think that you're entitled to teach. Now, I do think that there are some prerequisites that are required for you to get to the point to where you can teach. For me personally, and I think it's surrounded by a few things. A, you need to know what you're teaching. That means you need to be knowledgeable and experienced in it, not educated, because educated, when I always tell people, like, I don't really want to learn from people that are educated. Educated just simply means that somebody gave you that information. Like, you just looked in a book and said, you know, hey, here's the answers. Like, I can open a book right now, you know, and read about, you know, the three branches of government and stuff like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I understand them. I have to be surrounded by that people, that community. I need to be paying attention. I need to be reading articles, listening to the news, et cetera, stuff like that. I, you know, understand policies. I need to truly understand that. So I don't necessarily favor education, you know, from people. I prefer knowledge. And what I mean by that is knowledge is something that's obtained over time. So if it is, as I've stated, you know, I want to learn about, you know, politics or the three branches of government, whatever the case may be. After I spend 6 or 7 years around that and stuff like that, I'm much more inclined to listen to somebody has no degree, but has spent an X amount of years around the three branches of government, politics and stuff like that, than I am to listen to somebody who's fresh out of college with a master's degree and have, you know, just gotten a degree and spent no time around it, real time around it. So having knowledge, I believe that you need to be proficient at the dance, meaning that you need to be able to do what you say. That's important. You need to be acknowledged by your community. And then you also need to have integrity. That last one's a big one, integrity. And that's kind of the thing that I'd really want to talk about. Integrity when it comes to teaching the culture of freestyle dances or street and club dances. One of the biggest things that I think that's kind of an issue for me is that it's not that people genuinely don't have the desire to teach. I think that it's people don't spend enough time committed to being a student or learning the culture first before they hop up and decide to start teaching. Now, this is going to be a very triggering statement to say, but I'm just going to be real about it. At least in my experience, I'm from Dallas, Texas. And what I've seen in the Southern movement, usually the people who spend the least amount of time in a culture and then try and automatically jump up and try and go teach it are usually non-black people. That's usually the case. Obviously, it's just, hey, it's the demographic. It's just the environment that we live in. I did say I did live in Texas and stuff like that. Even though we do have, a large black community out here, if I'm being completely transparent and being honest, like there are not a lot of black people in the Dallas freestyle scene like that, or at least in DFW scene. I know that for sure. The majority of them are over in Crump and stuff like that, but a lot of it is just filled with, the Asian community, Latino, and white. That's majority what we have around here. No problem with it. There are a lot of good people in the community. I'm not here to simply go at them, but I'm speaking on a personal experience. Is that is what I see the most. The issue that I simply have with that is that a lot of people outside of the black community, this isn't your culture. Like, this isn't like your uproots as far as like where you were built, like culturally. Growing up in a black household, listening to Aretha Franklin, listening to Marvin Gaye, listening to the OJs or listening to the Nas and all the other cats. Like, this is what black people really, truly, this is what we're committed to. This is our culture. Because as black Americans, even though we may have ancestors and we may have, connections to other places, we are not, in my personal opinion, we're not Africans. We're not Africans. Like, we don't have African culture unless you've connected with ancestors or family in another culture and stuff like that. I have no idea where, in terms of where my family comes from in Africa. That's just me personally. So therefore, the only real culture that I do have at this particular time is the freestyle culture, hip hop, funk, soul. That is where black people in America, in my personal opinion, have made like some of their biggest contributions. That's not to say that that's all we do. Please don't be fucking racist. That's not all we do. But I'm simply saying is that like when it comes to music, it's not even close. It's not even close. That's what we do. So when we kind of circle back around it, as far as like what I'm talking about, is that like other ethnicities have other cultures. Whether it be, you're Jewish or you're Russian or you're Chinese or Japanese or your parents are from Spain or Portugal, whatever the case, you're Canadian, whatever, you understand what I'm trying to get across to you is that there a lot of non-black people have cultural ties, or they have relative, or they have ties to like to where their family comes from. But it's so quick that, and it's very strange that it's like, all right, those same people who have ties to their community and hold it at such a high level will so quickly come over to the hip hop community, and then all of a sudden like, oh, I want to start teaching. And it's like, yo, you haven't given enough time to like truly understand like what this is and like what it's supposed to mean. And more so, once you have a real thorough knowledge and understanding as far as like the culture of hip hop or the freestyle scene and stuff like that, you also pick up something that people don't tell you, is that you also pick up the hopes and dreams and the aspirations and a respect for the people that came before you. You also gain a respect for the people who are, so to speak, native to this culture, black. Now, I also acknowledge that there has been a very, very large contribution to the Latin community, so I will not, dismiss them in any way. That's me acknowledging them. Not that they need my acknowledgement, but this is where black people have made like some of their biggest contributions is in music and in culture. So when we look at these consistent situations and why black people always use the phrase like, oh, we should stop letting non-black people into our culture, this is kind of why. Is because so many non-black people are not truly willing to walk the path and get a true understanding and respect as far as for the culture in which, again, like black people are so closely connected to. Like, it's black culture, for God's sakes. And then when they do get a part of it, when they do get involved in it, they do everything that they possibly can to acknowledge the fact that it's not black culture. I personally have a problem when a non-black person comes in and teaches the community, but they deliberately refuse to teach the history of it. I have a problem with that, because that, in my personal opinion, that shows me that, one, you're insecure. And two, you don't really have integrity's not at the forefront of your mind, because anytime that you teach something, you need to teach the roots and where it comes from. It's one thing to say like, oh, you're ignorant, you don't know where it comes from, but that would be the first mark, then you shouldn't be teaching then. But as far as, somebody deliberately coming in saying like, hey, yo, I'm a non-black person, I'm gonna teach this hip hop class, but I'm only gonna teach you guys moves, I'm not gonna teach you where it came from. Then at this particular point, I was like, okay, you're a culture vulture. The biggest thing that I've always kind of looking into, like, when I have conversations, and I've had plenty of conversations with a lot of kids and young adults and stuff like that who've really wanted to start teaching. And I always ask them, I was like, well, why do you want to teach? And their response is always the same. It's like, I just want to share my knowledge with people. And it's like, okay, well, and I dive deeper into, that conversation, and it ultimately comes down, and I asked them, I was like, okay, well, you need to make sure that you're teaching the people that created these things. And it's always just like, well, why do I have to teach about, the people? Like, they're not here anymore. They're not relevant is a word that I keep hearing over and over again. And I'm not gonna lie, it does trigger me, and it just simply lets me know. It's like, okay, so again, this is, basically what we see all the time in America today, is that you want black culture, but you don't want the people. You want to be seen as the face of black culture. You want to make a name for yourself, which I've had other examples, which I've seen all over the states and experienced in conversations with people. The biggest thing that people don't like hearing, but it is the truth, is that, white people, like, everybody wants to be the great white hope. There's no great white hope in black culture. That doesn't exist. I remember people tried to coin that. They tried to say that a long ass time ago with Eminem. Eminem don't accept that shit. Eminem acknowledges that, he himself is in black culture. He's a guest. He doesn't walk around claiming hip hop. He doesn't. So it's kind of like, if you look at somebody who's like Eminem, who's made such an impact on hip hop today, why is it kind of that you feel as though like you should do any different? And again, it's not just with white people, but it's Asian, it's sometimes Latino, and even black people. Don't get it mistaken. I've had to check a lot of black culture vultures as well, and that's the disappointing part about it. Is that, oh, I'm gonna learn this and I'm gonna go teach this. No, take your time and be a student. Like, stop trying to rob from the culture just so that you can make a name for yourself. People are always so threatened by the fact that you have to bring up the history behind it, because it takes away your authority. It takes away your power. It takes away the illusion that your students are going to see like, oh, Siler made this up. No, Siler did not make this up. Siler was handed these tools by, Pun or other people behind me, or that came before me and handed me these tools, and that's who I am today. I don't exist without the people who educated and who trained me. And that's a lot of people who trained me. Maybe not consistently, but I've had taken time out to really learn from a lot of people. And I think that's the part that people really have to start acknowledging. It's not that we have a problem with people who are going to be anybody, non-black people who are going to be teaching hip hop or club or social dances. We don't have a problem with that. We simply have a problem with people, the lack of experience and knowledge, your integrity is not there, and then your refusal to teach the history because you want to be seen as this individual that you're not. Because that's what happens. Oh, people, I'm going to take this thing right here, and then I'm going to turn into a 9-month course, and I'm going to charge these 16-year-old kids on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that $60 an hour or $200 an hour. Because I've seen y'all max out some of these prices, and they're fucking outrageous. It's crazy. It's truly crazy. So again, I say it's not that we have a problem with anybody teaching. It's just we want to make sure that, hey, it's acknowledged that this was a really big contribution to society that black people were the main pushers for. This is what we contributed. And the last thing that we want to do is say, oh, hey, yeah, come on in, get comfortable. And the next thing you know, you start taking furniture out of our house and selling it for a higher price than we made we gave to you, which is virtually sometimes free. There's too many people out here trying to rob from the culture and make a name for themselves. And that's why black people are so, in my personal opinion, black people are so defensive about letting non-black people into the culture. Some of y'all are just oblivious. You don't appreciate the tools that in which like we're giving to you. And so when the next person behind you is kind of met with hostility, from somebody who doesn't know better, okay, well, hey, go blame the person that was in front of you. It's not your fault. And really, it's not the person who was abused, usually the black person's fault either. It's not. But at the same time, we're not going to create an excuse, or we're not going to pretend like, hey, this doesn't happen on a regular basis. America does everything in the world, to talk about black culture without calling it black culture. Do-rags at a fashion show. Oh, it's so urban and street and rugged. Black culture. Black women all talk, I think they're coining like sticky bangs or something like that. Black culture. So again, I think it's time we face reality and acknowledge the fact that black people need to be acknowledged for their contributions. And if you want to teach, then make sure that, again, you're respected by your community, you have knowledge, you can actually execute the things that you're preaching, and you make sure that you maintain your integrity. Then you won't really hear from anybody. We can't do anything about our skin color, but we can do something about the value of our character. And I think that's truly important. Stop taking from the culture. Stop taking one thing and trying to turn it into a 7-week course. Take the time to truly understand the craft that you're pulling from. If you don't understand it, then maybe you shouldn't be in that position of teaching. That's how I truly feel about it. And it's still, if you still ain't got all the other stuff, you still shouldn't be teaching. Let me know. Peace.